Good evening. My name is Vlad, and I'm an engineer at DataTorrent. And I'll try to do, hopefully we have a cluster up and running. So I'll try to do a live demo of ingesting application. So Pramod already covered requirements for ingestion, right? It's basically read from various data sources like Kafka, HDFS, it's like S3. It may be JMS queues or like any other type of messaging queue or persistent storage. Then basically what we would like to do is to parse that data if it's coming as a stream or as a binary data, and convert that into an object, so it's much easier to handle that within Java application. Like once we have an object, we want to do certain transformation enrichment with the object, like do certain filtering of the records, like do deduping or filter certain records that don't meet our requirements, and then store that. And for storage, it also, we may use Kafka, so data may flow from Kafka to Kafka and then consumed, or data may flow from in-memory data grid to Kafka, or from in-memory data grid to HDFS, and so on, right? So we're basically looking at doing some ETL transformation for a large amount of data in a scalable and fault-tolerant way. So taking that use case, we built an existing application. So we prepackage those pipelines for most common use cases. So for example, Kafka is pretty much a standard for messaging queue. So we will read message from Kafka, parse it, convert that either from a JSON object to a Java object, or from separated string to Java object. After that, those records may be enriched. So for example, if the record has city but doesn't have state, we can enrich that object with the state information. Then do additional transformations. For example, enhance that object with an additional field. For example, take a transaction amount and introduce a new field that based on the value of, let's say it's for over $1,000 amount, it will be marked as a high transaction, and possibly will be marked for additional processing, and other will be marked as low value, and they will be directly stored into database, for example, or to HDFS. Right, so that's pretty much the use case that I plan to cover for the live demo. And one of the thing is to see how that if it's possible to build that application using Apex directly in Java, and what it will take. So that basically will be a skeleton, right? It's, you can see it's pretty much entire that pipeline that needs to be built has few lines of the code. So at the beginning, I have Kafka input operator. That's part of standard Mulhall library. I do certain configuration, and that configuration like even though I do it here in the code, the same can be done through properties XML. So it doesn't, like, even those two lines that don't need to be there. Like, I put them to show that that operator needs to be configured. Then we have a parser operator. So assumption is that like data that is stored in Kafka is in comma-separated format. So that operator will convert like strings, parse it, and convert into a Java object. To do that, it needs a schema. So basically, it needs to know what to use for for a delimiter. Comma may not be the only one, so operator is quite flexible to use other delimiters as well, and it needs to know format of the object, how many fields and field types that it needs to convert it to. The next one is an Enricher Operator, and Enricher Operator also requires a configuration. So it basically, it's like in case like we are doing some lookups, and Enricher Operator supports lookup in a database or in the file. So basically, it will use that database or file as a key value store, basically to look up a key, to look up additional field by key that's already exists in the record, in the tuple. After Enricher, that may be tuple first transferred to transformation operator, and that's the ones that may introduce additional fields. The one where basically we'll do value of the transaction, analyze amount of the transaction, and introduce a field like high or low field, right? And after that, that will be written to relational database. So that's pretty much all that needs to be written, but all the details that are not here is how to configure all those operators. And there is significant amount of configuration that needs to be done. And to help with that, we created a visual tool that helps to create those types of pipelines. So let's take a look at how that can be done more easily using a graphical interface. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll go and get my input, and for input I'm using Kafka operator, right? Yes. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm adding a parse operator. And connecting output of Kafka to parser. Then I'll do an enrich. Right, and basically in a graphical UI, it already shows me like what output ports are available and what input port for every operators are available. So in this case, I'll be connecting output port to an input port of Enricher. Note that there are two output ports for the parser, and the difference is that one outputs an object and another outputs a map, right? So one converts that to a full object representation, another converts that to key value map. It's like where key is name of the property and value is the actual property. Like from Enricher, I'll pass that further down to Transform Operator, right? And let me try to. Application, right? And let's say it's like at this point I realize that like I actually want also to do dead application, and it's better to do dead application before I do processing. Otherwise, I'll be processing like duplicate records twice, right? I basically will be enriching and transforming them, and then like once they reach the duplicate operator, like certain records will be rejected. So at this point, I can basically go and redirect that, right? So remove this and reroute. And so I'm pretty much have all like my pipeline built, and at this point I'll just add if I want to output to HDFS, right? Like I need something that instead of outputting object, I need to output strings. So in this case, I have to introduce formatter. It's a reverse of a parser, right? So basically, it's an operator that converts an object back to a string, and then I can output that to HDFS.
So this question, what are the inbuilt enrichment and transformation algorithms available in Apex from Vinod?
Sorry, can you repeat?
What are the inbuilt enrichment and transformation algorithms available in Apex?
Those operators, it's like quite flexible. Basically, it's like the ones that Enricher that's already available is the ones that can look up from a file, or the ones that can look up from a JDBC data source. For transformation, we can do it's like simple transformation. And if we go to transformation properties, right, so there are several properties of operator. So for example, it's possible to copy all existing fields from original field to an output field, or certain fields can be dropped. And then it's also possible to introduce new fields based on expression, like using existing fields. So let me do. I should be able to add it. Yeah, like in this application, I don't have properly like schema defined. So let me switch to pre-existing application where I can show. So that's pretty much the same. It's like almost the same pipeline. But it has schema defined. Schema is like a way how I can like translate incoming CSV format into an object, right? So it's like once like a parser emits an object, remaining pipeline is aware of that object schema. And for example, here, like in a transformation, what it's doing is like it adds an additional field based on transaction amount. So it's like existing scheme defines TX amount field. So if you go here, so we do have transaction. We do have a transaction amount, and based on that field, that property that comes from Kafka, in transformation operator, we can introduce an additional field with name transaction priority, TX priority, right? That like for any amount that's over 1,000 will be set to high, and for everything else to low. Okay, so oops. Let me go over like a few fields, right? Like so, for example, for Kafka, I'll have to provide information about my like Kafka installation, so where Kafka is running, and also what Kafka topics I'm listening to. Right. Then for the parser, it's necessary to define schema. That's we already covered. Then it goes to dedupe and okay, basically it uses fields like to identify objects and like filter duplicate objects. Like there are few operators like error streams or expired objects that gets redirected to console output operator, and that's operator that simply outputs to the log file or std out. Like all the tuples that it receives, and the main pipeline it goes here to transform operator. Then object gets converted to a string and are outputted to HDFS output, to HDFS file system, and output goes, like we can specify to what directory it goes. And let's double check that that directory is, there is nothing in that directory. Okay, so there is that directory is currently empty. Let me try to start that application. Okay, so application was accepted for execution. Let's wait for a sec. Okay. Okay, so we have some data started flowing through the system. Let's take a look at the output.
Vlad, there's a question online asking if we can increase the font size of the Unix display.
good enough?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, so there are now files, and let's take a look at the contents. Okay. So you can see that we were consuming messages from Kafka and writing them to HDFS. And let me also show you, there is few metrics available as part of application. Right, so let's see. That's pretty much a metric on operators themselves, right? So how much operator consume memory, or how many tuples they're processing.
Is there a way in the monitoring window, is there a way where we can write something similar to JMXs and monitor them there? Like catch exceptions, and then can we monitor the exception handling there in the monitor window? Yeah, I mean, in the monitor side, we see those. I'm talking about custom monitors, building custom monitoring metrics, like adding, say in our logic, if we are doing some sort of exceptional handling, and we want to see how many actually are some sort of tuples that falls under some sort of exceptions. Can we monitor those?
It's we are doing monitoring as well, right? For example, on the right side, we are monitoring application master log, and parsing it and doing analyze events that are written to an application master log. So in general, yes, it should be possible. It's how much that's possible to integrate into console application. I believe that with the help of DataTorrent that's possible.
So one other thing you can do is like what you're seeing there with dedupe. If there's any error data, you can send it out to another port, to another operator, and you can log that. If you have aggregates, okay, how many have gone bad, those could be in your operator, and they could be metrics, and they could be visualized the same way Vlad showed with the custom metrics, the application metrics. You can also visualize your metrics there in the graphs, and those are also available via the REST API.
I have one question. like stream set. Stream set does the same thing, right?
Very close, yes.
So is there any difference between stream set and Apache Apex from the performance or perspective, from the additional feature perspective?
Yeah, like the main difference is a stream set is more a graphical environment that helps to build an application, while Apex is a platform. So stream sets runs on top of Spark or other execution engines. Apex is an execution engine, and it also provides operators library, right? Stream sets, it's more a tool of for building or putting together, designing an application. So it's, if you take a look, it's only that part of develop, right? That what stream sets provides. And in general, it's it should be possible to create an extension to stream sets that will leverage Apache Apex as an execution engine, as well as any other execution languages that it currently supports. Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, everybody, for coming. That will be the conclusion of our meetup. Please grab another slice of pizza if you'd like, but we really appreciate you making the time to come out here today. On behalf of Pramod and Vlad, everybody here at DataTorrent and Apache Apex, thank you.